The U.S. government has officially shut down. Congress couldn't pass a spending bill.
We have disagreements about tax policy, but you don't shut that government down. We have disagreements about health care policy, but you don't shut the government down. You don't use your policy disagreements as leverage to not pay our troops, to not have essential services of government actually function. You don't say the fact that you disagree about a particular tax provision is an excuse for shutting down the people's government and all the essential services that come along with it.
And now hundreds of thousands of federal workers are without pay. But this isn't just politics in Washington. It has real consequences for your job, your bills, and even the prices you'll see in the grocery store. What a shutdown really means. When the government shuts down, it doesn't mean everything stops. Essential services like air traffic control, border security, and military operations keep running. But many other services do not. That means around 750,000 federal workers are either sent home without pay or forced to work with no pay until Congress fixes this. They'll eventually get back pay, but that doesn't help if rent is due this week. Contractors, the people who do tons of behind-the-scenes work for the government, usually don't get back pay at all. So, for everyday households, the impact hits quickly. Less money flowing into local economies, late bills, and mounting stress for families. Everyday impacts you might feel. Government services slow down. Things like passports, permits, inspections, and licensing will take longer or stop altogether. National parks and museums close. Tourism-heavy areas lose business fast. Food and safety checks slow. The Food and Drug Administration and United States Department of Agriculture have fewer staff on duty, which can disrupt supply chains. That can mean higher prices or delays in certain goods. Assistance programs face risk. SNAP, WIC, and other benefits may keep running for now. But if the shutdown drags on, funding uncertainty grows. For most people, the first noticeable impact isn't that shelves are empty, but that things just feel slower. The market reaction. Stocks, major indices, like the S&P 500 and NASDAQ, often dip during shutdowns, especially if they drag on. Defense contractors, infrastructure companies, and other government-linked businesses feel the pinch first. Bonds, investors sometimes flee to safer assets like U.S. Treasuries, pushing yields lower. But if Washington looks too dysfunctional, yields could rise instead, because investors demand more risk premium. The dollar can weaken as global investors look at this chaos and think twice about the USA as a safe bet. Data delays. Key economic reports like the jobs numbers or inflation data may not even be released on schedule. That leaves the Federal Reserve flying blind, which makes markets even more jittery. How it could affect prices at the store. In the short run, your grocery bill isn't likely to skyrocket just because of a shutdown, but there are risks. If inspections are delayed, some food items might be slowed in distribution. If trade paperwork piles up, import costs could nudge prices upward. And if federal workers suddenly cut back on spending, local businesses in government-heavy towns could feel the hit. So while your milk and bread may not cost more this week, a long shutdown could ripple out into higher costs and supply headaches. Bigger picture, if it lasts. If Congress resolves this quickly, the impact is more of a headache than a crisis. But if it drags on for weeks, or worse, months, families miss mortgage payments and fall into debt. Local economies tied to federal jobs start shrinking. National economic growth slows, with estimates that every week of shutdown costs around 0.1 to 0.15 percentage points of gross domestic product. Investor confidence in U.S. governance takes a hit, making borrowing more expensive for everyone. In the worst case, a prolonged shutdown combined with other economic stresses could tip the economy into a slowdown or even a recession. How long could this last? History shows shutdowns can be anywhere from a couple of days to over a month. The longest in U.S. history lasted 35 days back in 2018-2019. Analysts right now suggest this one could drag on for at least a couple of weeks, especially given the political gridlock and sharp divisions in Congress. The key thing to watch is whether public pressure builds enough to force lawmakers into a deal. The longer it goes, the heavier the pressure on both workers and the economy. The shutdown isn't just political theater. It's a direct hit on workers, local businesses, and potentially your wallet. If it ends quickly, the fallout is manageable. If it drags on, the pain spreads fast. For now, expect delays, more market volatility. Stay tuned as we track how long Congress lets this drag on.